Well, that was what do you call that? A bit of a false start initially. We were gonna start this about an hour ago,
It's
and
a long start.
we got But much like the album that we should be talking about, or are actually talking about a completely other album. It's long.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Road Is Mine. KARAC Hendriks here with my son Cohen across the table from me.
I just see the Bruce Springsteen reference already.
Okay.
Max Weinberg on drums.
Yes, of course.
I did not know
yes.
that.
You know,
That's cool.
yeah, that's Jay's dad, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
As you would probably know him as, yeah.
Yes. Which is kind of funny.
Well, as listeners know, everything comes back to Springsteen, of course, as it should. But yeah, this one is definitely no exception. So today we're going to be talking about the album called Bad for Good by Jim Steinman. You should actually crack that open there. For those of you watching us on YouTube, I actually have this on vinyl, and I don't know why. I think I got it. I think I know where I got it, but I didn't have it for a long time. Mm-hmm. So just to recap here. So Jim Steinman just passed away. So this is actually a fairly timely one. We can actually talk about something we're not just pulling out of our butts here. Mm-hmm. So Jim Steinman is a legendary songwriter. Definitely not much of a singer, as if you ever check this album out, you'll find out. Yeah. I don't even know where to start with this. So Jim Steinman wrote these songs that were just like epic. I know I was playing you some of the classic ones. He's most known for the album Bad Out of Hell by the artist Meatloaf.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I mean, I was slightly alarmed that you weren't exactly familiar with it, and yet I think you are. I think it just, like, I know your mom and I have listened to it piles over the years.
Yeah, I don't know them by name, but as soon as you started playing it, it sounds super familiar.
Yeah, I mean, these were songs that were just massively popular.
Mm-hmm. And I think another part of why I don't recognize them by name is because it's kind of I don't associate those type of songs with a guy named Meatloaf with an album cover of like a demon riding a motorbike or whatever it is.
So in my history, I used to get Meatloaf mixed up with Coney Hatch. Or was it Coney Hatch? Yeah, I think it was Coney Hatch. And I don't know why. Like, that's a Canadian band. Okay. There could be some weird connection there. I don't think there is, though. So Meatloaf is a guy actually named Marvin Aday. He was he's still alive. I'm surprised actually Jim didn't outlive him, but because Meatloaf has been in poor health for years. If you ever see him, do you remember Wayne's World much at all? The movie?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because he played a guy named Tiny in Meatloaf, or in Wayne's World.
Okay,
and he was like the guy. He was like the doorman at the bar.
Oh yeah,
and they're like, "Who's playing here tonight?" And Marvin or Tiny says, "The Shitty Beatles."
Oh, I forgot about
like,
the Shitty Beatles.
Yeah, he's like, "Are they good?" They suck.
Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, so that's Meatloaf. He also played. I don't know if he was. If the character was trans or just a male with breasts, but he was a key character in the movie Fight Club. Oh, Meatloaf. Yeah. Okay. So next time you watch Fight Club, he was he acted his ass off. So most people, if you were like a kind of a theater rock nerd, I guess in the early to mid 70s, you would know him from the movie The Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was one of the main.
I was gonna when you said trans character, I was thinking the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
It's so funny though, because that really, to me, like, it has nothing to do with it, and yet it's the same guy. There was a flamboyancy to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
So that was like the trans guy in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
No,
okay,
that was in Fight Club. But yeah, there's this weird, like, he's able to tap into this very flamboyant. I don't even know where to begin. Like, I think. And I still don't feel like the story's been properly told with Meatloaf, because there was a movie a few years ago, like a documentary about him, and he was involved, and he's alive still, but he has this extremely large ego to match his gut. Like, he's like a large dude. He used to be a great singer. He's not a great singer anymore. He thinks he's still a great singer, and he's not. Of note, on his last tour, he was doing a show here in Edmonton.
Oh yeah.
He passed out.
Oh Jesus.
He fell over. It made the international news because he was singing, and all of a sudden he just went over. But it would be nothing out of the ordinary for him. He was that kind of performer. So if you ever see clips of him performing back in the day, like he was from theater, right? So he could like sing these big songs. And he had this big voice, and then he'd like fall down, and like it was, so everything was theatrical. So the mixture of Jim Steinman and Meatloaf, it's really hard to dissect them.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so cool. Like there are these teams, right, of composers and performers, and this is one of the best. There's no question. So I don't know, like, you know, a lot about Jim Steinman. He was quite elusive. He didn't, you know, he was around. He liked to be known somewhat, but he also liked to be behind the scenes, and he would just write these amazing operatic rock songs. Like, I don't think you can call them rock operas so much. I guess kind of, because like Bad Out of Hell does sort of tell this story, and there's a lot of discussion that goes on around like was he making fun? Were they making fun of Bruce Springsteen or not? It came up a lot because it is very Born to Run ish.
Yeah.
And Todd Rundgren is an asshole, so it is highly likely that he was sort of poking fun. But sometimes it's very hard to separate the majesty of these things. Like you can't hit a home run if you don't swing for the fence. Like you have to take these giant leaps, and sometimes it's not cool. And there was nothing about Bad Out of Hell that was cool.
Yeah.
It took them, I think, almost 2 years to get the record deal. The record was done and recorded, paid for. They could not get it. And it did actually come out 77, but it was done by like, I think 75, or if not like around 76 anyway, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, if you can imagine, like now that you hear it, you're like, if you imagine yourself just hearing this for the first time and there's nothing to reference it with, like no frame of reference, what am I hearing?
Yeah.
Because I want to hate it, but I love it. But also I hate it, but I want to love it. And it's this whole mixture of things. So I'm sure that, I mean, it definitely was not cool in a lot of circles, but it was also very cool to a lot of people too. So I came to it, fortunately, I came to it at a time when, before the sequel came out. So there was an album called Bad Out of Hell 2 that came out in the it was 93, I think, which was a big thing for me at my age, because it was just long enough where it was like my generation's Bad Out of Hell, even though we knew this other one existed. But I did get into Bad Out of Hell 1, and it was the kind of record where I had a copy of it, and I would listen to it every night before bed, like as I was going to sleep. It was because it was one of the few records where I actually immersed myself in the concept of a full front to end, like rock opera, I guess.
Yeah. And that was the first Bad Out of Hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And
I knew there was one album like that you had.
Yeah. That, well, and Rumors too. Like the albums around 76, 77 were big for me all at once. Columbia House had a lot to do with that, friends having copies and just getting into it. I was at the right age at the right time. It was right before I got into what was new country at the time. So it all kind of mashed up, but country really took over in the early 90s too, right? As for me anyway, the pop music. So, it fit right in. I didn't have it on vinyl. I still don't have the original one on vinyl. But for some reason, I have the Jim Steinman album on vinyl. So
one of my friends just got Bad Out of Hell.
Good. Well, it'll live forever. It's one of those albums. So Tommy is kind of considered the first true rock opera, but so there would be no Bad Out of Hell without Tommy. But it also, I still hold that it would not have happened without Born to Run, because like Born to Run made it okay to have like Spectre-esque production, singing about like themes of getting out of town on a gas-fueled machine, and this took it like just that much further. And I don't think they were written. Actually, I'm pretty sure they were not written. This was written long before probably the Born to Run idea, right? So, but people can be influenced at parallel times by the same things on different tracks, and then when you look at them, you can see these similarities.
Yeah.
So in this case, Jim Steinman had all these songs in it, and Meatloaf was the perfect foil for it. So Jim Steinman wrote a pile of songs after that, and some really great songs. And they were great. Other artists recorded them. The playlist actually I have set up on Spotify, and the Spotify version of this podcast, I'll have these interspersed. I didn't put any Meatloaf songs on it just because you got to know, like just go to the Meatloaf. But no one sang a Jim Steinman song as good as Meatloaf. So even songs that were done by other artists, when Meatloaf did his version later down the road, it was the best version. Like there's just no question. The biggest one is "It's All Coming Back to Me Now" by Celine Dion, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, so she killed it. And Jim produced it. He produced a few tracks on that record that he didn't write as well, but like that was just a monster hit in the 90s. But Meat did his version about, I guess, 12 years later, 10, 12 years later. It slays. It's exactly how it should be. And they were always hamstrung by this concept of Bat Out of Hell, right? It was like the title, it kind of loomed over Jim. So, but like a lot of people with big egos, they didn't get along great. I think, Meat definitely fell down the drug rabbit hole in the late 70s after the success. And I'm not sure what Jim's status was around being, sober or whatever. But this album came out, if I recall, in 81. And in some ways, it really resembles... It should be Bat Out of Hell 2. And the funny thing is, so when the actual Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell 2 album came out, a lot of these songs ended up becoming Bat Out of Hell 2, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but it's a good record. Like, Jim's not a great singer, but another cool, and a Canadian connection too, is a guy named Rory Dodd, is a Canadian guy, the guy from Ontario, was really important in the Jim Steinman story. He sang a lot of the leads on these songs.
Oh, yeah.
And I assume there was a Netflix connection. Or, oh my God,
Netflix,
a New York connection. Sorry, it's another N word. I'm trying to be careful about.
It was.
What the hell? Why was I thinking Netflix? But anyway, that's not perfect.
Maybe our subscription's coming to
actually it is. Yeah, I think May 26th. I think.
But yeah, it was.
So you see too how there was there's the actual record in there, but there's also this single, right?
Yeah,
it's a 33 RPM 7-inch, and the first song on the 7-inch you're supposed to listen to first.
Okay, before the album.
Yeah, and then you put the album on side A, side B, and then you play the side B from the 7-inch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
So I don't know how super intentional that was, if there was a contractual thing, but yeah, like, so the Storm, right? Yeah, that's the first track, I think.
Storm, yeah.
And then Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through was like probably the best song on Bat Out of Hell 2, but it was also one of the best songs on this album. So if you listen to it on like streaming or whatever, I think they're in the right order, like, side A of that one and then through. Sometimes that thing is tacked on at the end. Okay. But that was the intent. It's intended to kind of take you on a bit of a journey. I guess they wanted it long enough, or there were enough songs that they could have made it a double record or whatever. But I always just found that really intriguing that there was this bonus 7-inch involved in the album, and it's always there. It's not really a bonus; it's actually part of the full package. I love the cover of Bad for Good.
Cool,
like if you, he's got like wings and he's got a guitar in his head. To be him? Well, probably in his dreams. That is him maybe on the back, which is funny. I think he kind of had that cool image. He's like wearing a sports jersey, an NFL jersey, and then he's got like a scarf on too and gloves. I think he always wore gloves, if I recall. Like he was a weirdo, right? But these are the people that make rock and roll, right? They and stuff like this, they're celebrating what rock and roll can be, and the fact that, like, it's easy for us to look back now 60 years and rock and roll has happened and is basically gone now, but it changed the world, right? The boomers, this was their music, this was what told them things can change and you can be sexually liberated and all this stuff that the quote unquote greatest generation didn't want them to hear about or to think about. So rock and roll is so important, and people like Jim Steinman celebrated the what rock and roll means to them and what it can mean. And he was you could probably tell a Jewish dude from the New York area. He's got that full on vibe to him. There's that whole Brill Building, New York songwriter connection. They all came with their own stories because they were, like first generation immigrants, or the children of first generation immigrants coming over and, writing about their experiences of relationships and hardships, and then you add on top some really distorted guitars.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pete Townsend, for that, right? And and you end up with these masterpieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he actually play guitar like this? I assume not, but
Holding it by the
well, like look at the, it's got like an axe kind of.
Well, it's funny, hey, like so guitars are they're so phallic, right? And they're so symbolic. And if you think about like Kiss, of course, was the ultimate in like Gene Simmons' bass, like looked like an axe. It was an actual looked like an axe,
So cool.
And I think it was the Paul Stanley guitar, or maybe it was Aces, that actually had like flames that shot out of it. Like,
That was Aces, I think, because when we saw them.
Well, yeah, Tommy Thayer, but still, yeah.
So
the Ace character, yeah,
yeah.
Well, is it Starman? I don't know. They all should all have character names or something, but yeah, the concept of guitar as weapon, and if you'll be able to tell just from my stuff, like when I was coming up with my branding, trying to establish myself officially as an artist. It's the Thundercats logo, and guitars are my swords. Like, I'm totally in that zone. Like, as hokey as it is, like you gotta just let it happen. Yeah, let it
Power
be.
of music.
Totally, yeah. Even if it's got whatever steel guitar or whatever it is, yeah. The power of music and what it means to a lot of us. I'm not sure. I mean, you're living through that whole. Are you Gen Z? Is that what we call you?
I always forget.
I don't know, because
I'm
I'm considered an Xennial, by the way.
Xennial,
which makes complete sense, right? Because I never felt like an Xer, but I'm also too old to be a Gen Y or a millennial, right? So there is a term for, there's a pocket of about 6 years, like 70, 72 somewhere, where we caught things just at the right crest, but we're still technically part of the X. But but the experience and the place of music in people your age, if we had removed all of the music fanaticism of me, and your mom showing you stuff or whatever too, obviously TikTok is a huge music thing, dancing. So this is all stuff that is as old as time. People doing freaking dumb dances from the 40s and 50s, Bobby Socks and all that.
And they're coming back.
Sure, it never really goes. It just changes.
And
right?
One thing that came back recently was actually in like Jeff was talking about, like the sea shanties.
Yeah,
those are coming
what
back.
The hell?
I actually watched a video analyzing about why they're coming back. It's pretty interesting. It's called antiphonal music, antiphonies. So it's and it's actually really common once you ascribe the term to what it is. So it's basically music that is call and response.
Right.
So when you say something like, give me an R, like helix, that's an antiphony. Give me an R, O,
Okay.
And so it's really engaging, especially when you think about, like, we're in a global pandemic. People are at home on TikTok, and they're being called by these people. It seems kind of silly, but at the same time, like, that is kind of a call and response, like through the screen almost. So,
sure.
Which is kind of funny, but yes, sea shanties, that's pretty cool.
Well, even that whole concept of, and I got creeped out on TikTok early on, and maybe that's my own guilt, because I'm looking at these like 16-year-old girls that are like gorgeous and dancing, and I'm like, okay, no, this is making me feel creepy, so I deleted it. But the whole idea of like I'll do a dance, and then now it's your turn, and then you do the same dance back. It's kind of a like.
I see why it attracts people, but
sure,
it doesn't, not for me.
Well, no, for sure. And I, I'm still trying to wonder, like, did I ruin you, or would you have hated this? Because I would have hated it if I were your age too.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, it's something that, like, I went through periods of, like, actually kind of despising it to, like, I guess I get it. Like, I feel bad. Like, I like when I see people, I almost feel bad for them, that they're trying to get the attention of people like this.
Yeah.
Well, like, yeah.
Well, yeah. Acceptance and finding your tribe is. I mean, if you go back, if you think through, like I look at albums like Bad for Good and the Bad Out of Hell records as like these these bridges between that post World War II innocence to now. But there are common threads, right? In this case, it was, there's a bit of an escapism. The artwork of an album like this, for example, like it's not the picture on the back of just Jim Steinman trying to look cool. It's actually like a really cool picture that would look good on the side of a van.
Yeah, tour van.
Totally.
I was wondering if there's some references to mythology in this photo.
Well, yeah, if you go back through all the Greek gods, the Orion. I hear that CD's still sitting here. Like the concept of constellations representing these things that are quote unquote out of this world. I mean, it's music is a reflection of our times, but it's also an escape too. And I think I imagine it'll always be that, even if if I'm not relating to it, that's okay, because I'm not supposed to. I can't stand this Billie Eilish nonsense, but I get it, and I'm glad that other people are at least.
It's another one of my contentious points, is that Billie Eilish is the new punk.
Oh yeah, she's so punk. Yeah.
Well, no, not in. Well, I guess it depends on how you define punk, but she's got the different hair and the different clothes.
She
and
can't play an instrument and can't sing.
Yeah,
it's very very close. Yeah.
There's like a video I just saw where she like broke her leg or like foot on stage. And then I was just thinking about all the boomers in the comments watching it, talking about, I didn't actually look at the comments, but I assume there were a bunch of boomers in the comments like, oh, when Dave Grohl broke his foot. Yeah. Which is like, well, yeah, that's true. He did finish the show, which is pretty savage.
Damn right he did. Yeah. And he's not a drug addict. So like some guys are actually
that's true.
I didn't know I broke my foot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think Grohl's more of an Xer, by the way.
No, I know. I just use boomer as a term for somebody who is
old.
Yeah. Well, old. Yeah. Somebody who's above age 30.
Oh my God. Yeah.
No offense.
That's okay. No, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
Because I have like when I see people, I kind of think of like, I don't know. There's like the people who are in their 20s that I see riding their bikes with their friends that still need to grow up out of high school. And I'm like, yeah, okay, there's you. And then there's like people my age who are going to be there in a couple years, people younger than me. And then there's people in their 30s that tried to establish themselves and failed. And then there's everyone else, which is like, so yeah.
No, fair enough. Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, and of course, I'm sure I've rubbed off on you a lot as far as sometimes it's hard to. I find it hard to just enjoy things. Sometimes I look at things far too analytically and academically. And
oh yeah. Well, the thing that got me about TikTok was the misinformation that spread through that like wildfire was unbelievable. Yeah. Because, like I have a couple of friends who are on TikTok and some are avid users, and like some of the things that are spread through that site are just like it was at one point common knowledge in these people's minds that inflation isn't real.
Right. Yes.
Like I was like I was taken aback. Like they legitimately spread to these people's minds. Why doesn't the government just print more money?
Yeah.
I'm like, on its surface, I get why you might think that they're the government. Why not? But like really sit down and think about that.
Oh no, they already have their masters in economics apparently. So, and in pharmaceutical science and whatever else you can think of. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a double-edged sword, because I like the fact that with the internet, people can go find information and educate themselves. But on the other hand, it's also just open up this portal into like, I saw it on insert name here, therefore it must be true. Or I'm compelled enough to believe this, therefore it must be true. And scary stuff.
Yeah, it is. I did learn like some random things though, like that. Like I actually learned how strainers were meant to be used. I showed Mom, and she didn't know.
Oh, with the cover. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I saw it on YouTube, because TikTok makes its way to YouTube all the time.
Well, sure, yeah, and Instagram now too. Like you'll just see people reposting their stories and stuff. You're into stories, yeah. But there's a lot to be learned and stuff. But it's it is what it is, and we'll just keep on keeping on, right?
There are some pockets of TikTok that are funny, that are like, there's like some people on TikTok that make like, have you heard that? I assume you've heard the term Zoomer. If not, you may Gen Z, but
okay.
Zoomer.
Oh, yeah.
I like that term.
Okay.
Zoomers.
Well, yeah, you'd be a Zoomer.
I guess. Yeah, Zoomer. And it was like, it initially on TikTok, but it was posted on YouTube, and it was like how Zoomers film guitar videos. And so it was like he puts up like this. What was it? Some like kind of super strat. I think maybe like and then he puts it, and then he goes to his thing, and he gets and he puts a Polyphia hoodie on was the first thing. So he gets Polyphia merch, puts it on, he gets his guitar, and then he goes to his computer and he goes to his effects, and it's compressor, and he turns the compression all the way up.
Of course, yes.
And then he like does some like tappy riff, which was actually really cool. It was a really cool riff.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh shit, yeah. Yeah, it was so funny though. I'm like, stuff like that I can get behind because it's so like esoteric. It takes such a small percentage of people are actually going to find that funny.
Yeah.
But when you do find it funny, it's
for sure
hilarious.
You can find your tribe so easily. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to dumb down for the masses nowadays, right? That's the beautiful thing about the internet is you can just do what you want and you'll find those 50 people that are really into it.
Yeah.
You're cool. You're done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's very...
It was funny. I can't remember what guitar he used, though. It was also part of the joke. It was funny.
But you know what that reminds me of when you're talking about the setting up in Napoleon Dynamite when Uncle... what was his name?
Rico.
Was it Uncle Rico?
Uncle Rico.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the football guy. Yeah,
yeah.
And he's setting up the video camera on the tripod.
Throw it over the mountain.
So he's practicing his throws.
Yeah,
like it's the same thing.
Yeah,
like people just doing that with their phones now. Like, check me out. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna rip a solo from 1993.
Yeah. Well, like a YouTuber I watch does a lot of reactions to TikTok videos, which keeps me up on pop culture and
perfect.
It's funny and something he points out that's obvious but still funny is that you might not think about is that like when something happens like actually dangerous and their instinct is to pull out their camera on their phone
instead of
like
helping
you're not
someone
going to call a close person or like the police like you're going to pull your phone out like which I guess if you think it through like
it's currency, man.
If it blows up and you get money and you can pay for the damages of whatever happened if it's not at the cost of like a life.
For sure.
Then,
No, that's the alarming thing. Like, if you see a clip or something of something bad has happened and there's 10 people there and like there will be maybe 1 or 2 people that are actually like, let's say trying to do CPR or stop the bleeding. Yeah. Everyone else just has their phone out watching. And that's their inclination now. Now, I guess would those same people 30 years ago have just stood and watched maybe? Or hopefully one of them would have ran to get help. I don't know, but the human condition can be, looked through a lot of different lenses, and really it hasn't changed at all. No. It's exactly the same. The internet stuff is. I love the internet. I'm so glad. I mean, you're far smarter and more knowledgeable about stuff. Because of it.
Yeah, I'd be nowhere without the internet. Well, it's so handy. Like,
well, and
if you use it right,
you're relying on like it used to be encyclopedias, or microfiche. If you were a super nerd, you'd go to some library somewhere and be able to read old articles. So it's dismantled some of the things that we've held true, which is trust the press and a whole number of these things that they've just fallen away now. But it doesn't mean that the fundamental things that those things were satisfying isn't important. Like you do need one source of maybe not truth, but at least of fact. Yeah, facts are one thing, right? Truth is a whole other scenario. But it used to be, you'd go to the the World Encyclopedia or whatever. Now you do go to Wikipedia, which it can be a bit of a shit show, but at least it's democratic, right? So if you go in and make a stupid change, I'm just going to go in and fix it. Right? Yeah. And that happens all the time.
And I don't think people really care enough to go in and like mess up one minor detail. Like,
well, you'd be surprised. I've seen some, from what I've read, if you actually go through the histories of, because you can go in and look at all of the changes that have been made. Yeah. Sometimes people just go in and F with it, right? Like, especially like, okay, I'm a Harry Styles fan and I don't like Niall Horan or whatever, so I go in and I'll F with those guys just to piss off the fans. Sometimes that happens.
I just feel like the minute things like that, like maybe you and I would care about would be like changing when the album came out.
Yeah.
Like nobody's gonna like, I'm gonna change it by 1 year.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna do it, you're gonna put it in like 1900 BC or like I don't actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Something dumb like
2 years
that. Like it's gonna
different,
be funny.
Yeah, but and of course, like any of those changes can get vetoed too. Like really, the whole concept of a Wikipedia is brilliant because there's you're supposed to reference other things. It's supposed to be sourced from another source.
Yeah,
which I mean, you could go around that too if you really want to. But yeah, that idea of being able to I look at here's the facts, and I'm pointing to those facts, and then you can look through all of the annotated changes. Yeah, it's a great idea. And just the democratization of allowing not having gatekeepers has been a very like a cool thing. It's had its problems too. So there was a time where like if you, I mean, well, I guess we'll keep it in the music. You know, if you were an aspiring artist and you were trying to get heard, quote unquote, there were about 5 avenues you could go. You know, you'd write your songs or pick your songs, and then you'd go and find it, and you'd go meet with all 5 record labels, and if they're like, yeah, you're all right, but we don't see it, you'd go, okay, well, I'm done, right? But now you can go, fuck you, I don't need you. I'm gonna just make my way online, and then we'll see what happens. And like guys, like I hate to say this, but like I don't know how much you're following some of the country, but you know Luke Combs.
Yes.
Yeah. He's just a fat dude, great singer. Yeah. I love it because there's nothing about him that he should not be popular. Yeah. But he is because, and the beautiful thing about it is he's got really good songs. He's a really good singer. He's got an image that kind of people can kind of relate to. He's just got that red Solo cup, and he's just kind of schlubby. Although I actually put a suit on the last award show I saw, but because the dude can sing. But back in the day, he would have walked into an office, and this probably did happen to the poor guy. Like, drop 70 pounds, and we'll see. And when that happens, right? Maybe that's not wrong. Like maybe he should lose 70 pounds or whatever. But just the fact that he could actually cut through now, and he was one of the early country guys that really leveraged. I don't know what platform it was, but his socials were on point. He had his socials dialed in, and good on him for that. I love that. I think it's really cool.
Well, and it also comes with, like, of course, that comes with knowing, like, I know so many people's names that are quote unquote famous, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but they're like quote unquote famous for no reason.
For sure.
Which, of course, everyone, if they're famous, there's a reason, but it might be a dumb reason. That's why you would say no reason, but like, that's just semantics, I guess. But like there's so many of those like TikTok stars that are like, I wish I didn't. Well, and I don't wish I didn't know your name. I don't like.
I know
it's just silly. Like
you should
that I know your name.
Even who's that guy you had to keep reminding me of that's fighting that Manny Pacquiao or whatever
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul
that he fought Ben Askren.
The
MMA.
And what like and who and why and what? What does this matter about anything?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well there's so much. That was a funny thing. And he's going to be fighting Floyd Mayweather. Or his brother Logan.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Floyd, that's what I'm thinking of. Like Floyd Mayweather. Holy crap. Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy.
And I don't care.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less.
It's funny. Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is what's happening. So.
It's impressive, especially because like the thing with the Ben Askren is there was something like, well, remember the Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor fight? I didn't know who those people were, but it was like the biggest fight of this at the time, century at the time.
For sure, yeah.
Didn't care, but it was a big deal. And there's some statistic that they made like $1 million a minute for that fight or something. So there was like speculation. They're like, yeah, we'll just keep it going and which makes sense. And there's actually one of the only animes that I've like sat down and watched is called Megaloboxing. Okay. It's really cool. When I had Funimation, I was watching it, and it's about like a fighter. So they box, but they use attachments on them that are like power their arms more. Yeah. And it's not super out of the realm of reality, especially with someone like Elon Musk that exists. Yeah. I'm sure he can make that a reality just to make it more interesting. And basically he's kind of like the underground mutt, and he throws the fights to make money, even though he could kick their asses.
Sure.
Which is like it's a super interesting kind of puts that into perspective. Like, yeah, you can do that. Like do these underground illegal fights and throw the match if the betting odds are, I don't know exactly how it works, but Like, and you can make money from it.
Well, yeah, all of these things that we've held dear, which, I mean, to take it to a really extreme example, well, I thought and still think that Donald Trump was one of the most heinous individuals to ever be born onto the earth. I kind of dug it because he poked at everything and proved that none of this, well, it matters kind of, but it's not codified. And furthermore, we created him. We created this monster. You know, okay, go ahead and make a bunch of money. Okay, so he did, or lost it, or whatever happens. It doesn't matter. Like some of the stuff that we hold to be true or to matter, it just doesn't. Or if it does, we need to really reframe how we acknowledge that and what we're going to do about that. And we've taken the power away from a lot of these institutions. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad Sleepy Joe's back in bed and he's like looking after things or whatever. But we kind of needed that shakeup, and it was really fun to watch. I mean, a lot of people died, whatever. Yeah. But hopefully it never happens again. But what that does mean is now there's an opportunity. Okay, this happened. What are we going to do now? Like, okay, Boomer, whatever you are, Exter now, because we're coming up the line now. I'm going to be to blame for a lot of stuff here coming up soon too. What are we going to do with it, right? So, speaking of TikTok, before we come back to whatever we were going to talk about, how much do you know about TikTok? About the inner workings of it? Have you been following any of this?
I did a little bit. Like I know that they're access. Well, that's one of the things I found so ironic about it, was that a lot of people on the app would be spreading conspiracy theories, and the government wants to track you and whatever. And the app, the very platform they're using to spread that knowledge is probably the worst case of it.
Yeah,
which is so ironic that you get TikTok and it gets access and it'll like track your location when you're not using it. Like, why?
And they've all kind of done that a little more sneakily. I think TikTok hasn't hidden that so much.
Well, Pokemon Go is shocking me a little bit because it was, I don't know if there probably are some people that are have looked into that, but I don't know much about it. But there's a thing called Adventure Sync, so when you're not on the app, it tracks your steps. Doesn't work work for shit. I walked from one end of town to the other and back on my longboard, and it didn't track any of it. That's like several kilometers. I'm trying to hatch my Pokemon eggs, and it didn't. So I turned it off, and every time it says enable Adventure Sync, I say no, and it says thank you for enabling. I didn't enable it, and it's not enabled, but it says I did. And I'm like I don't think they care about me that much, but that's kind of weird.
It's totally weird.
Like,
and
why?
It's all to because I mean, you are the product, right? So you are enabling them to do whatever it is they're trying to do. I guess sell ads or whatever it is. But the reason I brought up TikTok in particular is because so I haven't been following it a lot, but enough that I'm intrigued, right? So Bloomberg. The magazine, fantastic magazine, by the way, but there are a few that are still quote unquote mainstream that matter. And Bloomberg is one of them. The Economist, I think, is another, even though some people don't agree. I think it's a good center left kind of magazine. But Bloomberg has been one writer in particular has been following TikTok since it started, which I think was 2016, right? It does go quite a ways back.
Because it was
ByteDance, right? Or it was Musically, and then ByteDance bought it, and then now it's TikTok. But so I'll ask you a question, and then you can probably guess what the right answer is. Do you feel that it's organic and it's things happen just because randomly people put up these cool videos and they get quote unquote viral?
Not really, no.
It's not at all. It is the most curated. I am so intrigued by this. I'm going to be reading about it a lot coming out here, because apparently it has been, there's the person that owns it, runs it, Chinese person, still in China. It is totally manufactured and curated. So they did the other thing. So rather than perceiving themselves as a platform, they are the content, and they partnered early with curators, with influencers or whatever.
Yeah,
and paid them to create content and have done like side by side sort of A/B measurements around things, what's going to work, what isn't going to work. Yeah. And every time you see a song that sort of quote unquote takes off on Twitter or on TikTok, it's not an accident. It is tried. It is they're using data to monitor, and they're partnering with the artist now. So who's the one that really was not Megan Thee Stallion? Who's the other completely irrelevant person for me? Would it be Cardi B? Or who's, what's her name, her real name?
I have no idea.
I forget. I was actually reading more about the real name because they were talking about this person as like the person, and they approached the person in the label and they said, okay, here's the 5 songs. We're going to try them all. We're going to test them with our people. And then whatever one kind of skews the best data or whatever, we're going to hang tight. And then on a certain day, we're going to launch it, and then it's going to go viral. And it did. And they, that's so crazy, they're actually manufacturing this.
And is it like that for every song?
Yes. So this is why I'm starting to question all this stuff. Like when you're talking about how much misinformation they were sharing, was that by accident or was that also done intentionally?
Yeah,
it may have been just an accident, but because they are focusing on legitimizing the platform, or actually they're not even supposed to call it the platform anymore because they're partnering with the content creators as opposed to being the place where you can go. It's blowing my mind, and
that's crazy.
Yeah, man. And now there's actual a podcast, season 2. I think it's Foundling or something.
Okay. Well,
there's like 3 episodes in. They're talking like this person has been studying it since it came out, and they're really following it. And the funny thing is, none of this is a secret. It's just that because this is not an American company.
Oh yeah,
where we have created these monsters, these Zuckerbergs or whatever. Not that they're necessarily bad people or whatever, but because this person is Chinese, they're just like humble. They're just sitting back. They're doing their thing, but we don't know them. We know the TikTok. We know TikTok. We know the people on it. We don't know the person behind it, nor should you. But that, in my opinion, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's so there's a lot to TikTok, and in even this thing like this Fleetwood Mac song, like I know that the labels didn't. They were caught flat-footed big time on that.
Yeah,
but did like somebody just go, we're gonna flip a coin and take this random Fleetwood Mac song, and how did that happen?
I mean, it could. Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it like that. I mean, I could definitely see that they would partner with. I feel like I'd have a hard time believing that every single thing that happens is curated.
It can't be. There's too much of it.
I could definitely see that. Like at least a large minority of it would be curated.
Well, I think a lot of the key stuff is at least around music. Because it is still a music platform, which is why it matters to us right now. Like even if you or I, especially you, might jump in on it somehow, but like I can't see how I could like without a tongue in my cheek like actually leverage it. But it intrigues me to no end because like you want to talk about like likes and follows and shares. TikTok is like millions in a minute. Like it is so large right now, and because the content is so quick and so like just passing. Like the engagement on this stuff is just massive.
It is, yeah.
And it can't be ignored. And that's why another thing I'm loving is you can't the oldsters in power have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
They're not on the inside and they're not controlling it. And I love seeing it. I mean, it kind of hurts me in the end of ultimately because I'm kind of caught in it, but I love seeing it. It's amazing.
True.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Yeah, I think you'll do a deep dive on that, and I'm doing the same because there is something to this, and it's not as random and as it quote unquote went viral. It's not. That's not what's happening.
Yeah,
it's actually being curated, but it's also not. It probably does. Like, I mean, you can't make people like something. Is the thing. But what you can do is you can show them 2 things or 3 things. Tell me what you do like, and then I will like take that data really quickly, analyze it, monetize it, push it out there, and then poof,
there's a couple things about that. I mean, I don't know how long you want this to be, but there are a couple interesting things I would have to say about that, and one of them, what was it there? Because I just started thinking about a different thing now about that, but come on. My brain overloads sometimes.
The TikTok, the sharing of curation.
Well, so like the one that when I really noticed that like music was gonna like it's really being made for TikTok was there's a rapper called Baby No Money, spelled BBNO $, and I love it. He's so funny. And
hilarious.
Young Gravy, they're best
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah,
They've
that
got
makes
several
sense.
albums
Yeah.
together. They're called Baby Gravy.
Right. Oh, sick.
I love them. And when they came to Edmonton, and I didn't get to see them
really?
actually,
Okay.
around when I went to K-Days and saw Lil Mosey, which I still love that North's
Right.
Best.
Yeah.
So catchy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and one of my friends actually got to meet Baby No Money, which was pretty sick. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, one of his songs was the lyrics was like, "And I'll be pissed if this blows up on TikTok," and that got clipped and blew up on TikTok.
Of course.
And I was like, that's so smart, because of course you're not going to be pissed if it blows up on TikTok. That's
yeah.
massive publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was really funny.
That is good. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess like, but there was another thing I was just learning about. There's a YouTube channel called Solar Sands, and I've been obsessed with his content. He's just like a young, probably my age, makes a lot of videos. He's the guy that I was telling you about, like antinatalism.
Okay. Yeah.
But he did a video about quote unquote the most wanted art piece ever.
Okay.
And so if you can imagine like TikTok doing with their data, but a hell of a lot less refined, and in the 70s, there was like a group of people that did surveys, and they got a bunch of data from people, and it was like, what's your most liked, like what's your favorite color? Do you like complex pieces? And they took all this data and curated by hand, of course not with an algorithm or computer, a painting that would be the most liked painting.
Okay.
And of course it didn't work. It was a cool painting.
Yeah.
And with that data, they did the most unwanted painting. And I actually preferred the most unwanted painting. If you look them up, they were really cool.
Okay.
And they did that with music too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are familiar with it, but it was like there's like the most liked or wanted. Yeah, super interesting though.
Yeah, I've read some stuff around because they're obviously that will never end. Like trying to figure out what makes a hit or whatever, what the brain likes or whatever. There's been lots of good books on it and stuff, but there are certain elements of things that you can sort of mimic. Did you see that thing? I heard it on Stern, but I didn't see it. But I would imagine there's some visuals too. They took some computer and they took all the Jimi Hendrix songs, and then they also took all of the Kurt Cobain songs, and they made new music.
Oh yeah.
The computer made new music using all of the elements of the things that, and it was like, wow, this is
Probably
like a new,
pretty cool.
It's a new Nirvana song that I've never heard.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it was like, but sadly, yeah, it makes total sense. I mean,
that's the scary part about like when computers can make things that we like.
Yeah.
And they already do, but like
kind of
when they can make it. That's the really scary thing to think about.
Well, it is, yeah.
Like I'm sure you've seen those like AI attempts to finish a song, and it'll be like a popular song, and then the AI just based on what's happening continues the song.
Yeah.
And those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a website where it takes pieces of art and it'll put them together and take the elements of the art and make a totally new piece, which is pretty cool too. Yeah.
It's all doable. I mean, I'm not too worried about it, but I do think that it's fun to
That's cool.
yeah, I mean, think all about it, but then, to bring it right back to this kind of stuff. So, this comes from an era when on paper, nothing about Jim Steinman's songs or any album he was involved with should have worked.
Yeah.
It should not have worked, but there was something about it that captured people's imaginations, and it was. I've always been a fan of when the person behind the scenes steps out, and it's never as good as the sum of the parts of whatever team it was. And then this is a good case in point. Jim's not a great singer. It's a great record though, of course. Yeah. In theory it is kind of the Bat Out of Hell 2, although then in the 90s we did get a Bat Out of Hell 2, and there were other Meatloaf records too. Like sometimes these people are really they're hamstringed by the very thing that made them popular, and So there were probably 5 or 6 records between Bat Out of Hell 1 and Bat Out of Hell 2. Some of them Jim Steinman was involved with too.
Yeah.
And they were great, but they were always kind of compared back to Bat Out of Hell 1. Even Bat Out of Hell 3, there were a few albums between 2 and 3. 3 was an overt attempt to kind of be, the next in the series or whatever. Jim Steinman was not involved with it, although there were some Jim Steinman songs on it. So they were able to clear, but some other writers, what's the guy from 6 a.m.?
James, the singer?
Yeah. He was a big part of that record. And so he's another one of those guys where, James Michael was his name. Yeah, he's marvelous.
He's a great singer.
Yeah, he can sing, he can write, he can perform live. He's one of my favorite of the new rock guys out there for sure. Super admiration for a guy like that. But then there actually was an album that Jim Steinman, the last album that he and Meatloaf worked on together, was called, I think, Braver Than We Are. It was awful. I couldn't get past the second song because in this case, so now Meatloaf has lost his singing chops. Don't tell him though; he'll be very upset. But and it was all auto-tuned, and it was just the most musical, soulless freaking. I couldn't get through it. I'm sure the songs were fine. I couldn't do it. I had to just shut it off. I liked a lot of Meat stuff even without Jim, but yeah, it was a sad, for me, it was a sad ending, and now we won't know unless there was some stuff in the archives or whatever. But there is a Bat Out of Hell Broadway show, theater. It's not just Bat Out of Hell. It's actually brings a lot of the other songs that he's written over the years too. Because they're all kind of in that theme. They're all very like long songs, and he has some of the best titles. I gotta find this before we close this off. He has some of the best song titles, obviously, even like just Bad for Good. Love and Death in the American Guitar, Out of the Frying Pan and into the Fire. I mean, so sometimes he'll take like terms that are, maybe like just you've heard them before, and then he'll actually, just make songs using that cheesy title or whatever.
Dance in My Pants.
Yeah, Dance in My Pants. Yeah, that was a good one. One of my favorite titles is "I'm Gonna Love Her for the Both of Us." Like stuff like that. Like he's just had these just marvelous like song titles, and they were always great songs too. They were epic songs, but one of the biggest songs you probably have heard it is "Total Eclipse of the Heart."
I don't know by name.
A girl named Bonnie Tyler sang it. Yeah, she was kind of like the female Meatloaf, if that. She had a bunch of albums. She's a great singer. Still alive as far as I know. Nowhere Fast. I don't know if that was on that album, but yeah. So there were. Oh yeah, Love and You's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that was another Bonnie Tyler track, but Meat did a version of it later. It was awesome. Holding Up for a Hero was another Bonnie Tyler song that he wrote.
Yeah,
you might know that one. Yeah, that was on Footloose, but.
That's one of those songs.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like something that would be a TikTok video. I don't know if it is, but yeah. Making Love and or Nothing at All was, that was 2 or 3 and Bad was obviously on the original Meatloaf. But yeah, It's All Coming Back to Me Now by Celine Dion. That was in '96. Very, very like it was just a classic Jim Steinman song sung by another marvelous vocalist, and then I love Meat's version as well. It was really good. And probably the coolest curio. I'm pretty sure I put this on the the podcast on the playlist. Yeah, and on the Spotify version of this podcast as well. The Everly Brothers had an unreleased version of a song called "Kiss Is a Terrible Thing to Waste," and I mean it didn't come out till after, but yeah, I mean just like thinking of the Everly Brothers singing a Jim Steinman song.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I totally dig it. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, and he produced Celine Dion's version of River Deep Mountain High, so he was a good producer as well. But I mean, it's really hard. There's these teams that just create things that are greater than the sum of the parts. So if you take Todd Rundgren producing songs by Jim Steinman, sung by Meatloaf, featuring members of the E Street Band, and Rory Dodd and Carla DeVito on vocals, you just can't. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
My dad always used to say that nothing was better than Bobby Bear singing songs written by Guy Clark, produced by Rodney Crowell. And to me, I'm like, that's another one of those teams for me. Well, yeah. Like sometimes the person who writes a song shouldn't sing them. You need a really good vocalist. So then you get a good vocalist, and then they have to be produced properly. There's sometimes they fall flat, but there are times you need that team. But it all starts and ends with a song, and Jim was a marvelous songwriter and also producer in some ways too. So Braver Than We Are, that was the last album. Yeah, it sucked. God, yeah, I hate it when things end anticlimactic or whatever. It's really frustrating. But so he died April 19th, and it turned out well. I had room on the list for this. I wanted to talk about Jim Steinman. There a lot of the stuff that you've listened to over the years. There's like, it's not progressive music from the arrangements, like as far as like time signatures and chord progressions, but the fact that the songs are so long and they don't end and they tell stories and he really doesn't follow a proper songwriting method. Like his song forms are pretty out there. Like all of a sudden, like there's this verse that it's kind of got these chords, and then it'll go back to this other one, and but that's what it keeps you listening because it's not so rote, it's not so routine.
I think you need that in a long song.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what makes it so cool. And and he was swinging for the fences like with these titles and it's just a lot of fun. So the songs that I've interspersed into the playlist and in the Spotify version of this podcast are there's no Meatloaf in it. I think everyone knows to go get that. But checking this album out is definitely important. It's kind of it was not rare by any means. I think it was around at the time. In fact, I think Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through might have been a single for him, but it was a bigger hit for Meat in the 90s. Yeah. And rest in peace, dude. Yeah, that was it's these guys that if there's one thing that I am positive or hopeful about is, even though I don't like a lot of quote unquote newer music in some ways, I feel like there are people like Jim Steinman actually doing things. Like as much as I'm not a fan of Billie Eilish and Phineas, I think they're taking really bizarre musical risks, and they have created music that is they've just completely sidestepped the whole concept of here's how you should do things. Yeah, it's totally. Like, okay, whatever. Cool. You oldsters do that. We'll do this over here, and we'll do our thing.
Yeah, I mess with it.
Yeah.
Maybe not what comes out of it.
Well, they're completely messing with it in a way, right? Like they're just doing whatever they want, and I do think like a guy like Jim Steinman just clearly did not follow the rules either. Yeah, none of what he does or did should have worked at all. But lots of hits, lots of really cool songs. Some really bad versions of his songs too, which sadly I think the playlist I've created has like Barry Manilow and Barbra Streisand. Like nobody should be listening to them anyway. But it's just fun to see that his songs did translate, or other people tried to take his songs and make them their own. But really it was all Meatloaf. So, but this is a great record, Bad for Good by Jim Steinman. It's a fun record to listen to. Especially once you go through the Meatloaf process
I'll have
a little
to do
bit.
Meatloaf front to back.
Well, just Bad Out of Hell once. Yeah, that you'll get that. I love Bad Out of Hell too, but that's because the age I was at when it came out. It was new then, and it was like, hey, mom's the song that the album that the oldsters used to listen to. Now I've got my own version of that, right? And a lot of the songs were from this record anyway. That's why they were so good. And the videos were fantastic because the budgets in the 90s were so big for music videos and stuff. And Life's a Lemon and I Want My Money Back. That was the second track on the album, right? Like, come on. Like, crazy. Like just swing for the fence, why don't you, right? And the album after that, Welcome to the Neighborhood, was cool. Jim wasn't involved in it as much, but he did a version of a Sammy Hagar song called Amnesty Is Granted. Very beautiful song. Yeah, like it's just like, okay, it was a good era for me with just getting into that. The 90s were so wide open when it came to what was happening. And it was still being built on built on the backs, on the shoulders of all of that hard work that came before it.
Yeah.
And they hit their stride. And has been studies. I think the male voice, like the male singer, their voice is at their peak in, I think, their 40s, right, or 50s even. Like there's it is like a bell curve kind of.
Yeah.
And Springsteen's like that too. Like his singing was at his best in the 90s, in my opinion, at least in the late 90s. And the reunion tour. Now when you hear him, he's singing great. He's lost a bit of his timbre, but I mean, God, he's. It's still amazing, but yeah, and Meatloaf was in fine vocal shape around that time too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff. But yeah, the Jim Steinman record it's a great curio, and it's fun, and I love the cover, and
it's cool.
I love the fact that there's like this EP involved.
That's like, really cool.
It's like a double record, but it's not really.
Yeah, I like that.
Sure. So yeah, have some fun with that. Check it out, and then next week we'll talk about some other record that you'll probably.
Yeah, I guess.
have to listen to, or maybe it'll be.
I don't know. There's probably one that we haven't done of mine yet. There's got to be.
You know what? No.
Have we done all mine?
We've done all yours, yeah.
Because did we do Kanye?
Oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry. We haven't done them yet, but they're on the list. Yeah, we've got a couple that are coming up. Yeah, we've got Kanye and... I saved a couple of yours. Like, I've slotted them in. Yeah. And then, of course, Pain of Salvation.
Yeah, when that gets here.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, or I don't know if we'll. Yeah, should we do? It's B, right? That one.
The fifth album.
Yeah. Well, but we already did one. Oh, I'm gonna have to see how this fits in with my OCD. Yeah, okay,
that's okay.
So we'll figure it out. But okay,
could be a one-off.
It could be. Yeah, and by the way, this is the first one where we've cracked an hour. So I try and keep them shorter,
nice.
But it's just not happening. So. Yeah, sorry to the listeners. Sorry, not sorry. There's only two people listening anyway. So
that's okay.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks for hearing me. This road is mine. And all right. Yeah. Peace.